paper on children.
Call the Honourable Member, Materia Ture.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Kia ora. And I want to just first acknowledge the reference from the Minister for the work of the Green Party. It's certainly true that the Green Party has put the issues of income inequality, the widening gap between rich and poor in this country on the political agenda, and we're very proud to have led that work in Parliament and in the community. I want to address some of the solutions to child poverty that are available to us as parliamentarians and as a community, and talk about the solutions that the Greens have for dealing with the child poverty issues that the Minister has touched on this evening. Last week, the Green Party launched our solutions to bring 100,000 children out of poverty in just 3 years by 2014. I want to acknowledge those who supported that work, the various NGOs around the country, Nicole Whippy, Cindy Kettle and Courtney Maloney, a young woman who is studying while on the domestic purposes benefit in law school while taking care of her baby, and was prepared to talk about her story and the difficulty that she has, having sufficient resources to take that next step for her into better education and caring for her child. 270,000 children live in poverty in this country. That's 1 in every 4. That's a quarter of all of our children. And these are not nameless or faceless kids. These are kids that we know. They are our friends' children. They are our neighbours' children. They are the children of our colleagues and our acquaintances. They are our nieces and our nephews, our mukupunas. They are our children. And they deserve better than that. They deserve the best possible start in life. They deserve to be guaranteed the essentials, because when we guarantee our kids the essentials, we guarantee them the opportunities for a best possible life. And we need to take action to bring these children out of poverty for their sake and for our collective future. Now, international research, particularly in the UK recently, has shown that the cost of not addressing child poverty is around 3% of GDP. 3% of GDP. In this country, that means some $6 billion lost in health, justice, education and welfare spending that could be saved if we chose to do something, if we chose to take action and invest a little bit now in these kids so we don't have to spend that later. Bringing children out of poverty doesn't just make humanitarian sense, it makes economic sense as well. Now, we have developed 4 costed solutions that will bring children, 100,000 children, out of poverty. And they address a number of the inequities put in place, first, I have to say, by the Labour government under Working for Families, and exacerbated by the decisions of the National Government, particularly around welfare spending and the training incentive allowance. Our solutions are achievable and they are affordable, and they will work to bring these kids out of poverty, and that's what we need to do. So we have 4 solutions. The first is to make Working for Families fair for every family. Now, children have the same needs, whether their parents are in paid work or not. And Working for Families helps low-income families to make ends meet, but it doesn't apply, parts of it don't apply to those families who are reliant on a benefit. We would incorporate what's now called the in-work tax credit into the family tax credit and extend it to 140,000 of the poorest households in this country. That means an extra $60 a week for these 140,000 New Zealand families. And that alone would bring at least 100,000 children above the poverty line. Excuse me, Mr. Speaker. Now, that poverty line is at around $14,000 a year, so it's a very miserable income that these families are having to live on and that these kids are having to live on. For these families every week, it's the difference between paying the power bill and having enough food. These choices are real for our families. They need to be made real for the politicians and for the government who makes the decisions about whether these kids get the money that they need to have just a decent life. Our second solution is to provide better study support for sole parents and for sickness beneficiaries. We know that kids do better when their parents are better educated. And the training incentive allowance is designed to help sole parents on the domestic purposes benefit to upskill and retrain.
I call the honourable member